Hi, this is Dr. Hackey Reitman. Welcome to another edition of Exploring Different Brains. Today, my friend Shawn Smith is in from Canada. He's the founder of Don't Diss My Ability. Shawn, welcome. You're returning, but I'm going to do the whole introduction again.
All right.
Well, your story is very interesting, and why don't you introduce yourself to who's ever watching this, seeing you for the first time?
Sure. So Shawn Smith, founder of Don't Diss My Ability. Unique story in the way that I identify as being neurodiverse, and I specialize as a counselor and psychotherapist in the field of neurodiversity. I was undiagnosed with ADHD until age 30, and it took me 4 years to finish 3 years of high school, 32 attempts during 18 credits required to graduate, including failing grade 10 math 4 times. Trudging my way through, and then started taking medication when I was diagnosed at age 30. And it gave my brain the jump start it needed, and it kind of took my brain from dial-up to fiber op. And I went from the bottom of the class to the top, and kind of battling my way through different social policies. I was disabled, but not quite disabled enough. So I started challenging social policy and kind of just getting my bearings and realizing that, when people say the system's broken, it implies that it was intended to work in the first place, and the research that I've done shows explicitly that it's not. And so I just kind of kept battling and was finally, I got into the Master's of Education and Counseling Psychology program at UNB. I was admitted on academic probation and graduated less than a year later at the top of my class.
You were a young little kid of 24 years old when you learned how to count, huh?
Yeah, like I used to, go around with pocket change and I couldn't count it. There'd be any type of stimuli. It could be lights or sound, and that's part of being neurodiverse, is that we feel and sense things more deeply than others. And so, I kind of describe my life as living in a haze. And so I would go to start to count the change, and then there'd be some type of stimuli, and it was like somebody erased the process from my memory, to the point I'd get so pissed off that I just put it back in my pocket and walk away. And at the ripe age of 24, my girlfriend at the time, now wife, we decided to move to Lake Tahoe, of all places. And I ended up getting a job as a blackjack dealer that I did not want. But because there are so many people, immigrants that migrate there every summer to account for the tourist season, I was the English-speaking Canuck. So they really were hounding me to do it. And so thankful that I did, because I had something tactile to manipulate with my hands, then I could do it in my head. But I didn't have a framework to conceptualize what people were asking me to count. And so once I had that, I was able to do math in my head really, really quickly. But when somebody comes into my office and they disclose, whether it's ADHD, Asperger's, autism spectrum disorder, even fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, one of the things that I say to them is, welcome to the world of the uniquely gifted. And I believe it because I see it in myself and the work that I'm doing with these individuals and the success that we're having.
Welcome to the world of the uniquely gifted.
Yes.
Well said.
Thank you.
So what inspired you to start your own organization? How did that happen?
I got really pissed off. I had been working, when I went back to a school and I'm bilingual, which in Canada it's an asset to speak both official languages. I had a university degree, and then, I had a diagnosis. So I thought, okay, I'm going to get one of these cushy government jobs that everybody talks about. And so I enrolled in our version of affirmative action. And I can't tell you how many jobs I applied for, but I can tell you how many interviews I had. None. And so when I went back to upgrade, I had to take 5 courses as a mature student, and they'll take that new GPA over your old one. And so I went from a 2.3 in my undergrad to a 3.7, and used those 5 courses to really dig into that program, and so just started writing letters through our government through the Right to Information Act, where they have to respond. And I realized that it wasn't me. I'm awesome. It's the program. So in the 25-year history of that program, it had never been audited. No one had ever asked the questions that I asked. I wrote one paper for 2 classes worth 100% of my entire grade with the same prof, and got 2 A's for my work. So realizing that, I was also a new dad when all this happened, right? And kind of realizing, what kind of person do I want to be? Am I the type of person who can look the other way and pretend it didn't happen? I couldn't do that. So it just fueled my fire. And what started off as, people, even my wife saying, oh, government wouldn't do that or the school wouldn't do that, calling me kind of a conspiracy theorist. Well, it turned out to be true. In the school where I did my undergrad, I don't talk about them because I don't want to publicize their name. But when I went back to upgrade, I was discriminated against twice and filed 2 separate human rights complaints against them. So in their affirmative action policy for new applicants, at the time they only recognized in their language Blacks, Aboriginals, and persons with physical disabilities. And so leaving out people with mental disabilities or disorders. And so I filed 2 separate human rights complaints because the first time I applied, I ticked off the other box and put ADHD, and they refused to recognize it. And so in my human rights complaints, and by naming certain visible minorities, therefore they are discriminating against all others. So I tried to work with the university to pitch a collaborative, more inclusive policy, and they hired a huge law firm to take me on over the course of 2 years while I was doing my master's degree, while my wife was in the program that I was advocating against and had 2 small children. So I don't like to get got. There's just something about knowing that you're intrinsically right in what you're doing, and just, I don't know, I just couldn't let it go. And so I just kept doing it.
Now, is that part of the attraction of your wife to you, that you were like a pain in the butt? And wouldn't let it go?
No, not at all. Because and that's interesting too, Hacky, because I was a different person. I really was. It's night and day. I would say before I was diagnosed and became part of the disabled community, I wouldn't say that I was a bigot but things that I found funny then I no longer find funny now. And so it was really a shift for me. And part of it was being up north in Canada, like way up in the Northwest Territories, and seeing, the suicide rate for, the gay, lesbian, and transgender community. And, my son was going to be born, and coming to this kind of epiphany of, does it matter if my son is potentially gay? Like, I just want my son, and I wanted to be happy. Nothing else mattered. And so it was just, I had this aha moment of, I just got goosebumps. Like, we're all people. That's all that matters there, is that people are happy, whatever lifestyle, whoever they are or choose to be. What
here
matters
in
is
the
they're
United
happy.
States, back when I was chairman of the Boys and Girls Clubs, Broward County here, the Boy Scouts had come under scrutiny, and there was a heavy amount of criticism on both sides, because they had decided they were not going to allow gay leaders. And so I was being asked as chairman here, what was the stance of the Boys and Girls Clubs? And I said, it's real easy. We don't discriminate.
Yeah.
What does that mean? It means we don't discriminate. Pick a category.
Yeah.
We don't. Now, if someone's not doing their job or someone's doing the wrong thing, we'll throw them out.
Just like anybody else. But
Yeah.
the people would have already been hired. People in the organization may not have known.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so yeah.
It's very, very interesting. And it's great that you're a fighter. Now, did a lot of that fighting spirit come from football or cause you to go into football? And tell us about your football career.
Sure. It's so strange to think back, Hacky, because I played golf and hockey all of my life, and I never got any better. And so to grow up playing 2 sports like that and to watch my peers progress and get better, I got bigger, but I didn't get better. And then my first year of grade 12, a friend convinced me to try out for our high school football team, and we were a powerhouse. I mean, our school was the largest high school, I think, in the British Commonwealth, of 3,000 kids. Wow. So it was a big school. And so I tried out, and I made the team. First year, I didn't play a whole lot. My second year, I was an all-star. And so as an all-star, you get packages from every major Canadian university with a football team. And so I can remember, you get called down to the principal's office, and it was a good one. I went down, I got all the packages, I kind of felt like a peacock strutting on my way back. But then as I opened them one after another, I just slipped further into a depression. I couldn't go to any of these schools. And for the first time ever, a cégep, a college from Quebec, decided to recruit out of province. And so the head registrar was also the defensive coordinator, and they snuck me in. I didn't have the grades to get in, but they snuck me in. And I went to summer school every summer too. I found out 2 weeks before training camp started that I actually graduated from high school and I was going to be moving to Montreal to go to school, which just seemed so foreign. I mean, I was transplanted from a small place into this huge urban center. So it was a bit of a culture shock, but you know, one of the things that my coaches would say, you know, there are two in particular, Coach Lou Chapman and Coach Dennis Wade, who, you know, they don't subscribe to the dumb jock. Like, you have to be smart to play this sport. And you do, you really do. And so it kind of ingrained in me that, you know, you really have to think, you know, and they kind of instilled that in me, even though, and I was starting to see more success academically, which was odd to me because under my parents' roof, I couldn't do anything. Then all of a sudden I had this freedom and I was doing better, but I also got to pick the courses that I wanted to take, right? So that made a difference, but it was really, you know, being accountable to the football team. If you missed class, then, you know, we had the honor system. You did this thing called a Big Three. So after practice and all the sprints and all the other stuff, if you didn't go to class and you know, they were going to know. They just had to ask around. So we had to do this thing called a Big Three after practice was done, where you'd have to crawl, like crab, one length of the field, do it backwards on the way back, and then sprint back, you know. So it was not worth it to not attend class. It really was. Like, it wasn't. Practice was hard enough. I didn't need that. But you know, in the odd time that I did miss class, I made a point of doing it, you know, because it was a good lesson, right? Don't do that again.
Well, the psychological aspects of training in sports, and good coaches can make a tremendous difference, just as a great teacher can.
Yep.
And of course, a great parent. I'll bet you're a great parent. How old are your little ones?
8 and 6. I love it.
What's their story? What are they like?
My son is really into Pokemon, and he's a reader. I mean, we went to the library last weekend. He took out 22 books, and I think over the weekend he probably read 5 or 6. Like, he's just reads like nobody's business, and he's smart as a whip. You know, my daughter's 6. We didn't teach her how to print or add and subtract. He did all of that. So it's just phenomenal to kind of sit back and watch that unfold. But you know, one of the cool things, you know, my wife and I have had a lot of shared experiences together. Like for many, many years, we worked together in, you know, therapeutic environments. So before we had our own kids, we worked for a company called Spurwink in Maine, and we were therapeutic foster parents for the Casco program, which was primarily at-risk youth. It was just so worthwhile to do it. So there's not a whole lot of stuff my kids are going to pull that we haven't already dealt with. So it's kind of nice that way.
I like how you named your organization. Point
Thank
to
you.
your shirt there. Don't diss my ability.
Yeah.
How'd you get at that?
You know, when I started taking medication, Hacky, things started happening in my brain. And the best way for me to describe it, you know, if you can think of an old, you know, an old antique truck that you find somewhere, you know, in an old barn, and you wanna get it going again. So you change the gas, you change the oil, you know, you pop the hood and you start it up, and you can see it start to rumble, and you can see the flakes of rust chip and fall off. That's what happened in my head. And so there was one night where I was on kind of an overnight watch of, you know, one of the residents up north, and I couldn't sleep. Like, my responsibility was to ensure his safety, so I had to, you know, his doors open, I had to keep eyes on him at all times. But things were just flowing in my head, and I listened to a lot of different music, and I just had this rap beat in my head. And I actually wrote a rap song called "Don't Diss My Ability," and that's how it came to be.
How does our audience get in touch with you?
I'm on Facebook. I've got everything going. Every type of social media you can think of. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube channel, and of course, contributing blogger for Different Brain. So, if anybody really wants to know where to find me, they can hit up your website if they're not able to find me through Google.
And what's your website?
ddmacs.ca. So ddmacs.ca.
Shawn, can you tell us from your perspective, why is self-advocacy so important?
it empowers people. I mean, I've realized that the only person I can really count on is me. You know, as much support as I get from other people, I'm the only person who can make or break me. And if I'm not battling for what I feel is right, then who else is going to do that for me? And although there have been a lot of organizations that, you know, claim to advocate for others, you know, what I've found is that they do that, but it's also about self-preservation. And I'm very transparent in what I do. And so for me, it's not enough to say that I'm doing it. I want to actively be doing it and making a change. There's no smoke screen. You know, I am who I am. What you see is what you get. So it's really about being transparent and staying true to who I am. You know, in the last month and a half, I've had 2 nonprofits come back and apologize to me for dismissing me when I reached out to them last year. And so I have this saying, you know, I won't wait for anyone. Catch me now or catch me later. But I'm not going to stick around. So it's part of, you know, realizing that I'm the one who's in control. And one of my you know, best friends and one of my advisors, Gene Fowler, who owns Luguru Animation, really helped me to see that, you know, although my business is located, you know, and where we are a local area, that doesn't mean that my business has to be local. So he helped me to see kind of a global perspective. So counseling is one aspect of what I do. But because I have ADHD, I also have, you know, a very good understanding of how my thought process works. So I know that I can't do the same thing all day, every day. I'd get bored and then I get resentful. So I intentionally try to partner with creative organizations and work on these really amazing projects.
What's the biggest single thing about what you do that somebody in our audience would have no idea and it would surprise them? If you can think of anything, what might that be?
Well, you know, a lot of parents come to me and they think that I'm going to work with their kids. And probably 95% of the time, I work with the parents. The kid's awesome. You know, it's the world in which we live in and how things are framed. And so an example would be, you know, when a parent will come to me and say, you know, my kid's isolating. And, you know, they're spending a lot of time, you know, watching TV or on their electronics. And so I reframe that for them. You know, if 90% of your day consisted of being told that what you're doing is wrong, would you want to spend time with you? And that's just, you know, the honest way of framing it. You know, from the time that kid goes to school till the time they go to bed, right? Parents are asking them to do this, that, or the other thing, and so are the teachers. You know, so no matter where they go, they're being crapped on. And so, and it's something that, you know, I'm not perfect, but it's something that, you know, I use in my own life that, you know, I try to be mindful of, right? With my kids, is that, okay, you know, what percentage am I at today, right? To be mindful of that, because if we're not, you know, what type of parent, what type of guardian are we being, right? And so I don't subscribe to an authoritative type of approach. I try not to, right? A lot of it has to do with natural consequences and helping parents to set up a framework. So it's not them punishing their child, it's their child choosing the behavior, therefore choosing the consequence that goes with that behavior. But helping people to kind of frame that up.
Well, listen, now I'm so glad you're in visiting us here in Fort Lauderdale from Canada. You've really been an inspiration to us because you got that Jersey City attitude. That's where I'm from. I think you and I both have a little bit of authority problems, but I love your story. I love what you're doing for people. I love that you're a good family man and that you're going out of your way to fight for those of us whose brains are a little bit different. So, Shawn Smith, thank you for being on Exploring Different Brains.
Anytime, Hacky. Love doing it. Anytime.
For more information, visit us at differentbrains.com.